All right, we got some news involving the Las Vegas Raiders, some kind of big under the radar news. Let's get right into this report, then we'll talk about it on the other side. Adding a new player to the Raiders roster. This is from U Sports. If you want to pull up the report, Miles. Offensive tackle DJ Fluker has signed with the Las Vegas Raiders, returning to the NFL for the first time since 2021. Before this signing, Fluker played for the Los Angeles Chargers, New York Giants, Seattle Seahawks, Baltimore Ravens, Miami Dolphins, and Jacksonville Jaguars. He last worked for the Ravens, where he played more than half the snaps for them during the 2020 season. A former first-round pick, he was drafted by the Chargers in the 2013 NFL Draft. According to reports, Fluker put in a lot of work for his NFL return, losing 50 pounds. All right, I think this is one of those low-key, kind of under-the-radar moves that doesn't get a lot of attention, but I think it's a really smart move by the Raiders. Obviously, Miller, the normal left tackle, is dealing with some injuries, so in terms of just an overall depth move, it makes sense. But here's what I like about it, because usually teams only make these additions when they're, playoff teams, like legitimate contenders. And look, I know the Raiders technically still have a path to the postseason at 6-8, but realistically, barring a big victory, they're probably not going to get in. But if you're the interim head coach, if you're Antonio Pierce, if this is a locker room, you don't care if you've got a 1% chance, a 0.1% chance, or a 0.001% chance. The way you reset the culture in the locker room is if you treat it as if you are a contender. You get that mindset about you. That's what we're seeing from the Raiders. And again, it's all part of the cultural shift. Again, approaching the game, approaching the rest of the season as if they are legitimate playoff contenders, even if the stats, the probabilities, I should say, are really against them. I think the DJ Fluker move has the potential to help them add some depth to a beat up offensive line, but it also, again, sets the tone and the mindset that this is a team that will be treating itself as a contender going forward. I love that from Antonio Pierce. Mice, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but first, Raiders fans, look, rivalry game. Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead, big time game. Chiefs looking a little beatable so far this season. Could be an interesting game. Give us your prediction, Raiders versus Chiefs, in the comment section below. But Mice, what do you think of this addition of DJ Fluker and just everything going on with the Raiders right now?
I think this is very interesting to me because DJ Fluker is a really, intriguing player early in his career. He's very good, highly rated prospect coming out of Alabama. Towards the end there in the 2020-2021 range, he just kind of fell off due to injury, due to being out of shape. It's just kind of like a Mekhi Becton situation, but not as bad. And now all of a sudden he takes a year off, gets his body back to neutral, gets in incredible shape. We have the picture of him here on the screen. He looks great. He looks better than he ever has. He's in the best shape of his life, in his words. So I know you hear that all the time, but truly by looking at the picture from here versus what he used to look like, he does look like he's in the best shape of his life. If this guy is back into shape, he could avoid injury. He's always been a decent player, and that's what you need as a depth piece. A decent player who's played both guard and tackle. He's able to potentially fill in multiple spots for you if needed. This is a guy, first round pedigree. I mean, what more could you want out of a backup than a guy who's done it at the highest level in college, done it at the highest level in the pros? He's played for a long time. He was on the Raiders practice squad I think as recently as 2021 as well. So he's familiar with the team. He's familiar with some of the other offensive linemen. There's just a lot to like about this signing when you think about a depth piece. This isn't a guy who's going to be your perennial starter. He isn't going to change your offensive line, but he's a guy where if somebody goes down, like Miller has gone down, you feel good to have a guy like DJ Fluker back there that can fill in and keep this offensive line going. So in that aspect, I think this is a really smart move by the Raiders, and I just think this is a good fit because obviously Fluker was motivated to get back into the NFL, and you can't, discount that. So a guy that's really highly motivated, worked his butt off, able to get back, is going to have that extra chip on his shoulder to prove that, he deserves to be there. You got to love that out of a backup. I think this is as perfect as it gets as far as, this signing for the Raiders.
And I think there's another point, and you kind of touched on it a little bit there as well, is that this entire rest of the regular season, the most important thing for the Raiders, and we talked a bit about this about a week ago during our last Raiders video, is the development or the analysis of Aiden O'Connell. You have to figure out who you have in O'Connell. And one of the things that really screws up a quarterback's evaluation, and we see it with the Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young, if you can't protect, you have no idea if your quarterback's good or not, especially if he's a young guy, especially if he's a rookie. So making sure you have a veteran backup offensive tackle that can step up if you have another injury up front or if somebody's underperforming, which let's be honest, a lot of these guys have at different times during the season, you can slide in a veteran guy. that can do at least an adequate job, maybe even a better than adequate job since he's lost all this weight. And again, allows you the perfect opportunity to evaluate O'Connell, because I think that's the most important part for the Raiders the rest of the season, outside of continuing to develop a better culture. You've got to figure out if Aiden O'Connell has a chance to be the franchise guy. Against the Vikings, he definitely did not look like the guy. Against the Chargers, a little bit different, right? There's a lot of football left this season. I think this game on the road against the Chiefs will go a long way in determining that. But again, 3 games left in the regular season. All 3 of these games are critical for the Raiders to determine if O'Connell is their franchise guy. They need to make sure they're sound up front to give him the protection that he needs to be able to execute the offense or not. And I think adding Fluker to add more depth to the offensive line helps further that goal. So again, not a big move here, not in terms of making the headlines, but a really smart move by the Raiders front office here.